Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk. And today we're going to do a review of Week 10 with some crazy stuff that happened out there. Man, Maddie, let's just start with that Vikings-Chargers game. I picked against them, hoping that I'd get a little of that reverse mojo. It worked. And it was actually a game I didn't have to sweat out because I'm not going to lie to you. On that 4th and 2, all I kept thinking is, all right, here we go. We're going to get stopped. They're going to drive the field. They're going to score. And I'm going to either have to worry about overtime or a 2-point conversion.
I genuinely, before the game, was like, the Vikings are going to win this. I changed my pick, but obviously it only counts what's said on the podcast because that's the only record that we have of it. That's the only time it counts. But I changed my pick after hearing whoever was commentating on them saying that, the Chargers have been showing that they can close out games and the Vikings haven't shown that. The Chargers for the past 2 years have famously not been able to close out games. So as soon as he said that, I was like, right, well, the Vikings are going to win this now. As soon as I thought, if it's a close one, the Chargers can't see out games, but neither can the Vikings either, I guess. But I just felt good for the Vikings coming up to that game. Yeah, it was a good performance. I thought your secondary actually played much better than I ever thought it would do.
Yeah, well, I think I texted you right before the game started and said nothing like playing without most of your defense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, out of our top 7 defensive players, 6 of them were out. So Kendricks, who had a huge interception and a huge sack, but Kendricks is the only guy. I'm like, how the hell are we? We had a hard enough time stopping people with the full squad. How the hell are we going to pull this off? But man, that secondary, and Mackenzie Alexander is usually one of the bright spots of our secondary. They were abusing him yesterday, but Danzler looked good. I was actually, Breeland had a couple what the hell moments, but I actually think Breeland played pretty well too. Our young safety looks like he can play. I was impressed. And I was at a point in this season, now I'm sure it's going to change, where I haven't been stressed the last 2 weeks because I'm like, fuck it, our season's over. But now think about this. We're literally in the A spot with 1 win away from being in the 6th spot.
The NFC at that point
the bottom
is really tight. The bottom half of the NFC is going in with a losing record. The final spot in the NFC is going in with a record at 500 or below. They're not going
I guess 9
with anything above that. So, but yeah, you guys are still in. You guys are still in this by quite a long shot as well. It's because the teams at the top are absolutely destroying the teams at the bottom, and then it's every man for himself after that.
You know, like this halfway through the season, if you got 5 losses, you're almost like, I got to win out, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, I don't want to say teams are thinking this way, but these 3 teams in the bottom battling for that 6th and 7th spot almost can lose a game or 2 and still maybe make the playoff. It's crazy. And when there was only 6 teams, we could usually guess. If you had 10 wins, except for 2 or 3 random times, you're making the playoffs. 9 wins at times get you in, and we've seen a couple rare occasions where 8 and 7 got you in. Now I don't know what's going to get you into the playoffs year by year with this extra playoff spot. It makes it really strange. And I have to ask you, just as little off base, but so as you scroll the internet and you see all these hot seat, like coaches on the hot seat, how come Zimmer's name's not on any of those lists?
The Vikings must just be the loyalist franchise of all time. That's all I can think to say. Neither of us want them to sack Zimmer unless it's the right thing to do. And we still think, even if Zimmer kind of makes it, I'm still at the point where maybe a fresh face with this new look offense that you've got going might do something a bit more. But if there's nobody out there that's better than you've got, then stick with him.
If we make the playoffs,
another game.
If we squeak into the playoffs, he saves his job. If we don't, I could see them firing him.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you get a win in the playoffs, he 100% keeps his job. But if they make the playoffs, I'd still be tempted to see what's on the market, to see what coaches are knocking about. Can I get a Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma
You have to be ready for a 3 to 5 year rebuild when you get a new coach, though. And then with the age of the Vikings players, maybe it keeps Zimmer because it's like, do some of these guys have 4 years? I don't know. But like I said, I'm not in the front office with the Wilfs, but I will say, if you fire Zimmer, you have to fire Spielman too.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But good win. We're talking about sacking the guy after he's just won a really big game against the Chargers. It's all hypothetical. We don't actually want him to be sacked. We're just saying maybe it's an idea every now and again to have a fresh face of the franchise. But the Vikings looked. I said this last week. The Vikings are the best 3-5 team anybody's ever seen. Like they shouldn't be 3-5 when it comes down to it. Now they're 4-5. So they're in this race.
2 quick weird stats before we move on. The Vikings are the only team who haven't lost by double digits in their games, and they're the only team in the NFL to lead every game by 7 or more at one point. Like, what the?
Yeah, exactly. So there's no need to worry about the Vikings yet. There was need to worry about them 2 weeks ago. But now they've got that one under their belts. Who knows?
Well, they have a big game against the Packers coming up. That'll tell a lot, but we'll get to that later this week.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
It's an important confidence booster before that, though. A really important confidence booster before that game.
Well, on to your team, the Cowboys versus the Falcons. The Cowboys look good. This is not a shot at the Cowboys, but holy fuck did they make the Falcons look horrible. And it just proves that the Falcons need to hit the restart button, because they had a team that had a lot of weapons come in and they had zero answers for them.
Yeah, and the Cowboys can do that to a lot of teams. We could have said that about the Broncos last week and they didn't do it. So I'm just happy to see that they did it. They absolutely smoked them from the jump. They were absolutely all over them. Weird call from the Falcons to go for it when they had an easy field goal. Strange call on that one, but let's be real, it wasn't really going to make a difference to the game. But yeah, the Falcons, you can't get beat like that. You can't be down, what was it, 36-3 at halftime. They gave up 29 points in the second quarter. You just can't do that. They've got to find a way to rebuild because they've got good pieces. They just, in that division as well, you've got to be good to go anywhere in it. So you may as well just hit a rebuild button at that point. They're looking for a quarterback realistically, and Matt Ryan isn't the problem in the Falcons, but he is older. And if they get that quarterback, that dynamic quarterback that they might want, then look out for them. They'll be good. But the defense is also horrific.
Matt Ryan may not be the problem. He's definitely not the answer. And yeah. I know everybody throws all this love on Diggs because of the interceptions. I got to give a shout out to Lewis. This man was asked to lock up Pitts, but not only that. So it's third down, and he's got one-on-one with Pitts, breaks it up, beautiful play. Then they come back on fourth down, and the name's slipping my mind, but they put him one-on-one with 84. He makes a huge play on fourth down to stop that drive. I was like, man, shout out to Lewis, because when they're talking about your secondary, it's always Diggs, and that guy balled out yesterday.
We were talking about it last week, how they're going to deal with Kyle Pitts, and Cordell Patterson is who I think you were talking about, number 84, Cordell Patterson. Possibly.
Was it Patterson? Okay, maybe it was, but possibly. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I was flipping back between the Bucks game back and forth. So
we were talking about last week. We were saying, how are they going to deal with those guys? And they dealt with them really, really fucking well. Like this young secondary starting to kind of take shape. Now, I still would prefer to have another elite cornerback if there's one to be had in this draft. That's what I think we have to go for. But these guys are locking it down enough. And Anthony Brown has really improved since the start of the season. He made a big interception. Jordan Lewis made big plays. That's his biggest game as a Cowboy, how he played this. I can't think of another way. And then Diggs locked his man down and got an interception. They didn't throw the ball anywhere near him apart from on that interception a lot of the time. And that's what you're asking for from Diggs now. We know he's got good hands. We know he's going to make the play that goes towards him. Now we're asking him to lock people down instead. You don't have to get turnovers and turnovers and turnovers. The turnovers will come to you if we lock their best receiver down. That is what you have to do. And that's what he did. And he played really, really well. Micah Parsons is an absolute stud. That defense is flying about and he is the embodiment of it. Well done to Dan Quinn for getting I think he got the player of the match award. He definitely got the match ball in the
yeah, he got the game ball.
He got the game ball, didn't he? Yeah, he got the game ball in the dressing room. Dan Quinn has changed life in Dallas.
Well,
which is weird considering how terrible the Falcons
Quinn's greatest asset to the Cowboys this year, and this isn't a shot, it's what they needed to do because they got overwhelmed and flooded last year. He's going by the KISS moniker, and I don't know if you guys use that over there, but over here, KISS moniker stands for keep it simple, stupid. Like, don't overcomplicate shit. Use your strengths. Exactly. So, yeah.
There's always been crazy talent on that Cowboys defensive side. It's not like they don't have talented players. It's just let them fucking play, man.
Right. Don't overcomplicate it. Yes.
Yeah. In today's NFL, where you can't really going to be screwed no matter what you do a lot of the time when you're playing offense. Like, it's an offensive league. You've just got to make plays when you can. And this team, the block punt went the way a block punt should go this week. Just things like that didn't happen last week. And then obviously the offense was really ticking over. Don't really need to say much more about the Dallas offense. They're going to score points every single game, apart from last week. But they're going to score points most of the time. It's all about how that defense keeps on holding up. Will that defense keep on keeping on? And I think it is a resounding yes.
Well, I said to you yesterday that it's a good time for teams to be losing because the last thing you want is to host a game against the Rams or the Cardinals, where if it ended today, that would be you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Fantastic weekend for the Cowboys.
Well, to a team you could have handled losing, but they didn't. The Packers versus the Hawks. The Aaron Rodgers didn't look like COVID had too much to do. Maybe a little bit rusty in the first quarter, a couple throws. Russell Wilson's the one who looked off. He was overthrowing players. I'm not sure that finger's healed all the way. I think the Packers just came out and do what the Packers do. I don't think it was that big of a shock.
I don't think it was a shock at all. I think Russell Wilson's probably had this game on his schedule and came back for this game. He probably could have done with sitting out another week or two. It's difficult to throw a football as it is, as well as you need to do in the NFL without having pins in your fingers. I mean, yeah, there was some big overthrows, some big misses, uncharacteristic of Russell Wilson, and the Packers defense is real, which has been one of their weaknesses for quite some time. So the Packers defense is serious, and that makes them a real worry for any NFC East teams in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and they got their best corner and their best defensive lineman rusher coming back. So you got Smith coming back, and I don't know. I think they're just going to keep getting better. That defense, they're actually impressing me this year. They look more of a championship team to me this year than they did last year because of that defense.
Can win. Yeah, they can win in multiple. They can win in multiple ways. They can, if you can win with your defense, you have every chance of winning a championship, because that is how you've got to win in the playoffs a lot of the time with your defense. And the Packers have got that. They're not just relying on Aaron Rodgers, although in the games where they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, they did look like they were relying on Aaron Rodgers. So, they need him to be there to be a championship team, but also they have a defense for if he's not quite at the races, which he wasn't, shown by the fact they only scored 17 points. But if you're locking somebody out, you don't need to score loads and loads of points, do you?
No, and good for the Packers that it looks like Aaron Jones is only going to miss a week or two. It's a sprain, not a tear. And
good
somebody over
as well.
Yeah, and somebody over in Seattle really needs to get DK Metcalf, a sports psychologist. Because what the hell is he doing at the end of the game to get thrown out? Like, bro, really? This isn't the first time you've acted like a petulant child on the field either.
Who's acting like the wrong kind of DK? Who's acting more like Donkey Kong than DK Metcalf? And what is that? Like, he's throwing people around. It's ridiculous. He needs to. You lost. Grow up. Like, be upset about it in your changing rooms. You didn't do shit either. So don't get too upset about it. And he's not one of those guys that when it's going all wrong for him and he's shouting at his teammates and shouting on the sidelines that it improves his game. Because if it did, then that would be fine. But he plays worse after that happens, which is what we've seen happen to him. We didn't have time to see it last week. We didn't have time to see it yesterday because they'd already lost the game and it was pretty much at the end of the game. But we saw last year when he was acting like a petulant child, he could no longer play the position as well as he should do. It's not like Michael Jordan, who's acting like a petulant child, shouting and screaming because they're losing, but then that makes him an absolute assassin. He's not playing as well as he should be, and he's not the wide receiver star that lots of people think he is.
No, and then like when Michael Jordan or Tom Brady stomp on the sidelines and yell and stuff, that's out of a place like, hey, get your head out of your ass. We got to get out there. Where this seems like a very selfish, emotional anger that like he better get a control on, or he's going to start getting suspended from games, because the NFL's only going to put up with you getting kicked out of a game a couple times before they're like, all right, we'll miss a couple more then.
Yeah, and Tyler Lockett is the best wide receiver on that team. It's not DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf is a specimen, an absolute freak of an athlete. But Tyler Lockett has the brain and the connection with Wilson. And that's not to say that DK Metcalf doesn't have brain. And it's not to say he wouldn't be an absolutely awesome number one wide receiver in a lot of places. Tyler Lockett is a special guy, but he does need to book up his ideas and grow the fuck up. Like, you're a professional athlete. Yeah. If you're a professional athlete, imagine acting like that in any other job and you wouldn't be there for much longer. So come on, sort it out.
Well, on to a game that has a team that has a bunch of people that needed to grow the fuck up and now they're out of there. The Chiefs versus the Raiders, because the Raiders have been through more than any team this year. I mean, thoughts and prayers to everybody involved in all the awful shit that has gone on with people in the Oakland Raiders organization. I was going to say something like, you can't blame the organization for the actions of others, but I was thinking about this last night, and the organization decides to take a lot of chances on character issue guys. Not saying Henry Ruggs was a character issue guy. That was a outside of the box type thing, but they take a lot of chances on guys who have character issues. And now it seems to be coming back to bite them in the ass. And the Chiefs came back to show us why they're the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, with the whole you can't blame the organization, it is kind of their entire brand.
I wasn't gonna, but then I changed my mind. It's like,
with most teams, I would get you, but with the Raiders, with the black hole and just the way that they've built themselves up. Yeah, the way that they've built themselves up, that is who they subdue themselves to. They're in Vegas as well, Sin City, it's Sin City. That is Vegas, right? I'm not just being stupid. Yeah,
no, it is.
City. Yeah. Like the Raiders in Sin City, they've taken a few character issues. They've only got themselves to blame in a lot of ways for who they pick. It's finally come up to catch them. Like, it's finally caught up with them. You feel like last night was the first time where, right, okay, they've stopped just riding this emotional wave. But also, Patrick Mahomes played some really fucking good football last night, and the Chiefs actually played some defense for once. So that, it's amazing what it's amazing what Patrick Mahomes can do when he's not having to chase a game, where he's not 14 points down immediately. Like, it's amazing what he can do, and it's amazing what the defense can do when Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing the ball away every single play either.
Yeah, I agree 100% on what you just said on both teams. So instead of just piling on the same conversation, the one thing I will say is, I know it went bad with Deshaun Jackson's fumble, but if he does not fumble that ball and he just goes down, that's exactly why the Raiders got him. Like, you don't even need to know the playbook right now. Just stretch the field because the Chiefs got to sit down on every route because they don't have a deep threat. And when they brought Deshaun in, it would open up for other guys because they had to cover the speed over the top. I think that Deshaun Jackson is a great addition. And as it goes on, we're going to see more on why he's going to help the team. But I agree with you. I think they hit that emotional high wall, and it's just downhill from here.
I don't think it means it's totally downhill for the rest of the season, but it's an emotionally charged game against the Chiefs anyway. Like, the Chiefs and the Raiders fucking hate each other, man. Like, it's like that. It's an emotionally charged game anyway, and I think it boiled over. You know, when you're boiling water for your pasta and it boils over, and then your pasta takes it so much longer to do because it's boiled over and the heat's gone back down a little bit, you know? Like, I feel like that's what happened with the Raiders. They could be simmering along again anytime soon, but yeah, because I agree with you with the Deshaun Jackson move as well, and Derek Carr is an absolute stud and a leader, so I think they could be back, but that emotional wave won't be carrying them through as much, and they have a definite coaching deficit every single time they take the field.
And I don't think that the Chiefs are going to give this division back now. I think the Chiefs may have snapped out of their little funk. Also, the problem with the Raiders defense, and they can't get away from, you cannot play cover 3 on every fucking down if you're not going to get pressure to the quarterback.
Yeah.
If you can't pressure the quarterback with your front four, Patrick Mahomes is going to eat you apart. And that's what he did. He sat there and just picked them apart. He stayed patient. This was what was different too.
Yeah. Taking
what the defense gave him and then striking when he had a chance. You can't play cover 3 like that, and they do it every game.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes just played a good game, and the defense played a good game, and we know what the Chiefs can do. We'll see how good they are next week.
And maybe I just have so much faith in that offense that they get me. Maybe they will get me. I feel like, okay, they're back, but we'll see. You're right. So maybe they'll get me.
They do have a difficult game coming. The Cowboys are a bad matchup for them, I think, as well.
Is that who they play next week?
Yeah. So yeah, the Cowboys are just a really difficult matchup for them. So I think they could drop off next week as well, just because they've never really been able to stop the run, which the Cowboys can do. The Cowboys seem to get pressured to the quarterback and a decent enough in coverage. It'll be a high-scoring game probably, but I would say they could take a step back, but that doesn't mean that the Chiefs aren't going to take a step forward for the rest of the season. Like, I'm more worried now as a Cowboys fan than I was on Saturday about the Chiefs game, thanks to how awesome they looked this week. And the Raiders, although I slated them at the start of the season, are a much better team than I thought they were going to be. And what a lot of people thought they were going to be. So really good win for the Chiefs. And they're still the AFC West, the division that we thought was going to dominate, maybe have 3 teams in, hasn't.
No, it's been a crazy year over there for that division.
Or just on the West Coast in general.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, on to the football team versus the Bucs, which I'm really not going to lie to you. When I was texting you yesterday and you were like, I was like, hey, I switched over to the Bucs game because you were like Diggs, and I knew he picked it off, but without watching it. But I was just like, oh, I switched over to the Bucs game because your game was such a blowout at that point. Like, I was like, this is over. I can't watch anymore. But I thought, okay, they got a turnover. They drove down. They scored. This is the Bucs game. No. Washington's defense played like we thought they should have been playing all year. Looks like Chase is out for the rest of the year, which is bad. But
he might enjoy it. He might really need that timeout. Like, he didn't look right like this year. He might use that timeout well, as long as he comes back healthy, which the way medicine and doctors are nowadays, he will come back healthy. He will be fine next season. So maybe he needs that timeout after such a crazy year last year. So that could maybe do him some good.
It could. And I was very impressed with the big third downs that offense picked up when they were needed to with Washington. But as I just praised Washington, I think this says more about what's going on with the Bucs. than it does. And I know people are like, oh, Brady's going to be mad because Bruce Arians was out there and they said, oh, I don't know if that was on Brady or the receivers. He was like, it was on Brady. I don't think Brady's going to be upset because Bruce Arians, just a guy who tells it like it is. Brady knows he played bad the last 2 weeks. I don't think Brady's going to take that offensively. I think after dealing with Belichick all them years, that's probably one of the nicest things that's been said to him.
Yeah, I feel like Tom Brady doesn't mind saying it's his fault when it's actually his fault. The problem with Bill was it was Tom Brady's fault, no matter whose fault it was.
Right.
But I don't know what really happened. We said last week, don't be surprised if this game is close. We both picked the Bucs, but we said don't be surprised if this game is close because they are a difficult matchup for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they're playing well. They showed that in that playoff game last year as well. They are a difficult matchup for them. The Taylor Heineke Bowl, as it's now dubbed, thanks to yours truly last week, when in the Washington football team's favor because Taylor Heineke played a solid enough game and the Bucs weren't firing on all cylinders. They needed both of those two things to happen. And the Washington football team's defense played like the Washington football team's defense should play. And that just makes them a bad matchup for the Bucs. What surprised me is they managed to run the ball. Like nobody's been able to run the ball against the Bucs, and they didn't run the ball like for massive amounts of yards for anything crazy, but they were able to run it enough where Heineke could keep it solid behind and not have to kind of throw everything down. And they were kind of playing behind in front of the chains the entire time, and that worries me for the Bucs. I think you're right. I think it does say more about the Bucs than the Washington football team.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm completely worried about them yet, but they got some things they got to figure out before the postseason. And it was just weird to watch Brady have two bad games back to back, which I know the Brady haters on the internet are going to just love it. But I'm not worried about Tom Brady yet either.
I'm not worried about the Bucs or Tom Brady at all. I think they'll get it together. It's just a weird mid-season lull, and it's such a long season this season that maybe that'll help them. Maybe that'll help them out to really hit their stride, and they'll get into like the top two spots in the last game of the season or something.
Well, yeah, moving on to a game that we both had in our top 10 with the Steelers and the Patriots and the Browns. Now, I told you I picked the Patriots, but I'm cheering for the Browns. But I don't think anybody saw a 45-7 ass whooping coming.
Nobody saw that.
Just a quick shout out. Ernest Johnson, this kid's going to be a running back in the league. Whenever he needs to, he steps up. That blowout was not his fault. And shout out to Baker Mayfield's body, because I don't know how much more of a beating that dude can take. No matter what you think of Baker Mayfield out there, there's never an argument. This kid is tough as nails. Yeah,
the guy's a tough son of a bitch. That's true. Like, doesn't have the best footballing brain in the world, but that could just be because he got 7 stages of shit knocked out of it the entire time. So, I'm sure we'd all be a bit scrambled in the brain if we got hit that many times. It's a weird thing that happened because the Browns' offensive line should be one of the best in the league. Surreal, but the Patriots are really starting to freak me out. They're really starting to hit their stride, and Mac Jones is.
Who?
As we've said all season, Mac Jones is who Mac Jones needs to be.
Every time I hear the name, that song, Mike Jones, comes in my head. I had to.
He is who the Patriots need him to be. He's playing some really, really, really good football. And their draft pick, Stevenson, finally showed us what he said he'd been showing us in preseason. They said he'd been showing a great preseason, and he hasn't done anything until this week where he went off and rushed for 100 yards.
Well, could you imagine, do you think that in San Francisco, Shanahan's sitting there now, and I love Trey Lance. I love me some Trey Lance. But do you think he's sitting there going, man, I could have a way better Jimmy G right now with Mac Jones than I got with the two quarterbacks sitting here right now?
He's like, damn, I should have listened to Chris Sims my best friend, and pick Mac Jones, and not giving up all of those draft picks.
Right.
he could have drafted. He could have moved up to like what? Like the Giants would have.
Weren't they in
the Giants
10th?
at
Couldn't
11?
they have just stayed right where they were and drafted him?
They weren't ahead of the Patriots, were they? They were down in.
Yeah, I think they were at like 10 or something, or 12.
We were 10. We were 10.
Okay, maybe not. It doesn't matter. But yeah, you give up way less to move up to 14 or whatever than you would have to move up to.
Yeah, the Giants or the Eagles sitting at 11 and 12, like they would have moved down to get some pieces, and you would have only had to give up what? How many draft picks did they give up in the end? Like 3?
3 firsts, I believe,
3 firsts?
And other shit too.
3 firsts. They could have just given up 1 or 2 to move up to those spots and got Mac Jones, because you better believe that somebody else would have taken Trey Lance. He looked made for Atlanta, as far as
Trey Lance better be as good as I think he can be. Do you know what I'm saying? Or you look like a fool.
He better hit his ceiling, or Kyle Shanahan could be really scrabbling around for a job. Like, he better hit his ceiling. But yeah, Mac Jones looked fantastic just to move this back onto the Patriots and the Browns.
Well, shout out to the Browns D, because I put them in my other fantasy league and they got me -6. So thanks a lot, because there's no way I thought this was going to be a blowout. At worst, I thought a 17-point win for one of the teams, whatever. But they put me in a spot where I got to pray Matt Stafford don't get 30 tonight or I lose.
It's okay. They made me look like a dick, because in one of our most viewed videos of the year, I said, the Browns are back. They're going to, the Browns are defending well. Their offense is clicking again. Oh, they're back, they're back, they're back. And I don't normally hop on a bandwagon like that, I promise, but to then get smoked 45-7, that really, really hurts, man.
All right. On to a game where it was Dan Campbell's biggest accomplishment in the history of the NFL. He played to a tie. And the Lions suck. They're the worst franchise. And this is not Dan Campbell's fault. What I'm about to say is, but leave it to the Lions to have a chance to win this game with a shortish field goal, and you don't even make it to the.
That's what I thought was surreal about that, because that guy is fucking huge. Like, it's mad that what's his name? Santosa, like, that guy is putting some serious weight behind the ball. And this isn't a criticism, because our favorite kicker of all time, Pat McAfee, is a big dude as well. You better believe that Santosa can hit like Pat McAfee. But if only he could kick as long as Pat McAfee, then the Detroit Lions would be sat here with a win this season, because he kicks it straight. I genuinely thought it went in because of how surprised I was that he didn't make it. Squib kicked it. Terrible. They did everything they could to lose that game.
And the worst thing is, I wasn't even shocked. I just laughed and said, oh my gosh, that is the Lions.
Yeah, they give up so to save some money, they get rid of their kicker, who was Prater. Is Prater the Lions kicker?
I don't remember.
NFC North one.
It's so bad. I don't follow the Lions kicker. Like, Jason Hansen's the last dude I remember. So,
but whoever it was good enough. He would have made that. He was one of the better.
There's 15 college kids who make that off the bench. Like, yeah. You know,
you could pick up any player in the city. You could pick up any rugby player, and they're going to kick that over as well, and they can take the payday happily.
They probably have a receiver on their team who kicked in high school who could have made that kick.
Yeah, but it doesn't come down to, well, like it does. To be fair, to be fair, in this circumstance, it kind of does, because he missed an extra point as well. That means that overtime isn't needed.
Right. It never boils down to one play, though. I guess we agree, because there were so many things they could have done, because both teams at the end were trying to see who could lose that game.
Yeah, exactly. And if Goff manages to drive them down the field, if they have somebody a bit more dynamic than Goff with his arm, if they have one wide receiving weapon somewhere, if they have anything like that outside of their running backs and the decent offensive line, then they win that game. I think it kind of showed the Steelers are the opposite to the Vikings. They're the shittiest 5-3 team that anybody's ever seen. And the same as they were the shittiest 11-0 team as well last year.
And Ben's out for at least another week.
like he's going to make a difference. Like
well, he was better than Rudolph. Mason
he
Rudolph
is a little better than Rudolph.
It's time to put Dewey Haskins out there and see what he can do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised at how long Mason Rudolph stayed around that league because he's a fine backup, but there are so many better backups out there that can make bigger plays and give you something. He must be
the good backup, as in when Ben comes off the field, Ben's comfortable going, what did you see? And Rudolph's like, I saw this, I saw that. That's probably why he stuck around so well, is that he's another extension to their starter more than if he has to come in.
He might be the next Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore, that kind of guy who comes into the coaching because of his brain. Didn't think about that. Kellen Moore was a fantastic backup, but a third string backup as well for the Dallas Cowboys.
Kellen Moore could play better, though, than Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, and he was a lefty, so he gives you something a bit different as well. But Mason Rudolph's just a shit Ben Roethlisberger. And Ben Roethlisberger, and he's not. Ben Roethlisberger isn't playing well either.
No, that was perfect. He's just a shittier Ben Roethlisberger, because that's so true. Because Roethlisberger's a Hall of Famer, but he's not playing at that level right now.
Yeah, he's a shittier version of this season's Ben Roethlisberger.
Right? No, it's true though. It's true.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on Ben too much. I feel like I've been really harsh to Ben. I know he's a Hall of Famer, but just know when to end it. Know when to end it. And it was 2 seasons ago.
We're just saying the run's over. You were great. Yeah. You're a Hall of Famer. The run's over. You didn't take care of your body. You took a beating. It's fine. Your career was shorter than some of the guys you were coming out with, but your career was still longer than guys like Eli, man. It's not a shot.
And get the incredible standing ovation as you leave for your final game at Heinz Field. Yeah. Your final game at Heinz Field, like, he could have had the perfect ending, but instead he tried to stick it out, because that's who Ben Roethlisberger is as well. Like, he sticks out the play. Like, he sticks out the play like he's trying to stick out his career. And all credit to him, but this is the end for Ben Roethlisberger. The Steelers are going to get a new quarterback, and it could be the man that's the Vikings are playing next week, which is terrifying for terrifying for anybody in the AFC North.
I'm good with it. Get him out the NFC. Get him out the NFC North. I'm good. Like, I like Tomlin. Send him over to Steelers. Stand him.
Just one final shout out before we end this to the Panthers-Cardinals game, where Cam Newton returns, and on his first 2 touches, gets 2 total touchdowns, 1 throwing, 1 rushing. I'm back, baby. I'm back, baby. You can't give Taunton for that. No, I was joking when I told you I'm surprised he didn't get it, though, because of the way they're calling He did get it. He did get it. They got him for unsportsmanlike conduct. Yeah. They flagged
in the 45-minute clips. They don't show that, or the videos. They don't show the flag.
Yeah, they flag him for unsportsmanlike conduct after that. After that, it's like he's shouting. He is shouting at the crowd. But how does Aaron Rodgers not get unsportsmanlike conduct for saying "I own you"? And Cam Newton's just screaming "I'm back," which is fair enough.
So, since you said that, it's a good lead in. You guys keep your eyes open. Maddie and I are about to drop our top 5 running backs and see what we have to say about Christian McCaffrey, because that's a weird one. He was out for a long time, but then he came back and went off yesterday. So let's see what we have to say about that. Check out or keep watching for that video. Will be dropping this week. Thanks for watching, guys. One world, one love.
I just thought you were going to say that. I just thought you were going to say that Cam Newton was going to be in your top 5 running backs.
Might be. Check it out.
You'll have to find out. Colt McCoy will not be in our top 5 quarterbacks, unfortunately, due to him having the Fitzpatrick gene. Terrible. Sorry. Right. Anyway, yeah, let's end it. Here. This
all right, but everybody remember that term, the Fitzpatrick gene, because that's going to go on forever. All right, guys. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.